back everyone. That was the first day of testing completed. That was quite interesting and it was quite impressive from certain teams. We're going to talk through most of the teams that I can remember. I've pretty much been watching testing on and off pretty much all damn day. It's been fascinating and it's been very interesting to see. Let's start with McLaren. McLaren were the fastest in testing. But I'm not just starting with McLaren because they were the fastest in testing. They're the fastest in testing that also looked the most comfortable. Seriously, when Lando put in that lap, he looked comfortable and he looked at ease. It looked like it could have went at least 5/10 faster. He just went for a little push lap and then he went really fast and he was like, "Oh, I can calm down. I can calm down. We're there. We're there." It was like McLaren realized that they were safe. They were in. They were in. They were in for the shootout, for sure. So as we know, some drivers got to drive the car at the first part of the day, and the other teammates, they got to drive the car at the second half of the day. So Lewis started first, Piastri started first. You know, some of those guys, they were in the first session early in the morning. But I will continue to say that car from McLaren under that speed was very impressive. Now, Ferrari was also very impressive, especially, in the second part. So the first part of testing really seemed like they were doing some long runs, particularly with the Ferrari, particularly with the Mercedes, particularly with the McLaren. The Red Bulls were kind of, I'm not sure what they were doing, to be honest. It didn't seem like they were doing long runs. It didn't really seem like they were doing push laps necessarily. But some laps did look a little bit push, especially the ones with Liam Lawson and then Max Verstappen in the second half. And these are some of the times that we have. So Norris, most of the cars, well, not most of the cars, I should say. I'd say the top four. They're already in the 130s. And obviously, you got Carlos right there in the Williams, and he's 5/10 off Lando's time. But that lap from Lando, and he didn't really get the fastest final sector, but despite all of that, the car looked stable. It looked like it just wanted to keep gaining speed. It looked like it was just like, I can go faster, I can go faster. Like the car has a lot of confidence, which is really good to see. Now, our Mercedes back, George Russell seems to be very happy with this. George is smiling, especially when the red flags came out. Yes, there was a power cut. Red flags came out, and so they had to extend the testing time. So testing should have ended like an hour or 2 hours ago, but they had to extend that. And George seemed, like all the cars really seemed like they were down a little bit in performance because of engine mode. Like imagine, the lowest engine mode that they have. I don't know, but I'm having a guess. And it looked like George was really pushing the capabilities of what he had in hand. And he seems to be quite happy with it. I also think George could have went faster with his particular time. We're not entirely sure on fuel loads. We're not entirely sure on engine modes. We're not entirely sure, on, so many things. But it's one thing that we know. For sure, the most promising teams, Mercedes is up there, Lando, McLaren is up there, and Red Bull, they're definitely in the mix. And for the Ferraris, Leclerc is 4/10 back. But again, we don't know. We don't know how representative that is. Hamilton is a second back from Leclerc, but Hamilton was doing long runs. Antonelli was doing long runs, but towards the long runs, towards the end, Antonelli did pop in and do a super quick lap. I have a feeling we're going to continue to see some faster lap and we're going to continue to see some reorganization of the positions, particularly tomorrow and on Friday as well. So it's going to be interesting, but I like that they get straight down to business and they're not holding back. Well, not too much. They are holding back a little bit, but not too much. Because even with Lando lap, even though he was going for a little push lap, he was still holding back here or there. It wasn't like, okay, pole position time. Similar thing with George, similar thing, I haven't seen a lot of onboards of Verstappen, but I've seen a few moments where the car was behaving and it looks stable for sure. I think if there's any issues with the Red Bull, they probably retain some of the problems that they had last year, while teams like Mercedes, they've probably fixed majority of the problems that they had last year. Although George was saying, These times, we're not even sure how representative these times are, even for George and Mercedes, because they're like, well, it's usually quite hotter in Bahrain. So, relative to Bahrain's typical weather, Bahrain was actually quite cold in F1 standard. And as you know, the Mercedes tends to perform better in the cold. So, we're not even sure if that's representative. But I think one time that is definitely representative is the McLaren. Another time that's very representative is the Red Bull of Verstappen. But you can see guys like Lawson, Antonelli, they were in the first session, so they were doing typically long runs. Same with Alex Albon. A lot of those guys, they were doing long runs instead of just doing, quali laps. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about testing so far? And I must say, it's really nice to be able to watch testing straight from Sky F1 YouTube channel. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay for it. It was just on YouTube to watch, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Because if anything, this would encourage me to buy a season pass to watch Formula One. Because unfortunately, in the UK, I can't get F1 TV. And, that's not a lack of trying either. They purposely built it so people in the UK can't access to it, and so that we have to pay for Sky. So that's really annoying because if I was in another country, depending on that country, I might be able to access F1 TV. But Sky has an exclusive deal with Formula One to broadcast the sport exclusively. Yeah, they have that, except for the home Grand Prix, which should be free on Channel 4. But I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think about the cars and how they were behaving? So, certain things that I realized with the Mercedes is that Mercedes were running that car super low. They were running that car super low, as it should be. But I think they were one of the teams who were probably pushing the limits on how low they can run that car. And it seems like some news came out on Monaco. So apparently, mandatory two-stop has been approved for the Monaco GP. So teams will now have to make at least two stops during a race. That's going to be really, really crazy. I'm telling you that's going to be painful for some teams sometimes, and for others, who knows. Also, what happens if you get a red flag and you change tires? Is that a pit stop or is that not? Oh my, I am telling you, this is going to be a bit spicy. Welcome back, Angela. Welcome back, and welcome to Ferrari. Welcome to Ferrari for all of us. So, yeah, I did realize, this is George talking actually. He was very happy with testing. He seems to be really happy with the car. He seems to be at one and he seems to be enjoying it. So, it's encouraging for the Mercedes at least. But as testing goes on, we will see more stuff. So, I'm looking forward to that as well. Hamilton doing what the GOAT does. You know what I mean? So, very, very encouraging stuff. I like what I've seen from testing so far. Mercedes, they forgot to take off Lewis' number from one of their generators because the electricity went out, so they needed a backup generator. And they got it. McLaren towards the end of testing today, they were using some FlowViz, and that was really funny. I don't know if you've seen it, but the mechanics, they were trying to block photographers from taking, close-up images of their FlowViz. And while that's admirable, that just makes us think even more that they got something that we should know. McLaren seems to be the favorites for sure. While everyone seems to be, Red Bull, there's a huge question mark. Mercedes, there's a huge question mark. Ferrari, there's a huge question mark because Ferrari has changed so much on this year's car. So there's a huge question mark for a lot of those teams. But it's one thing that comes with Ferrari and those changes is that how will they capitalize on these changes as the season goes on? These changes will either, get better over time or they will become a weakness or a hindrance. But it was really good to see some cars on track. Really good to see some behaviors of some of these cars. For the most part, the Red Bull, the Ferrari, they look quite stable. The Mercedes was a little bit jumpy, like tiny porpoises, but I don't think it was major. I just think that's quite normal if you're running a car so bloody low to the ground, which they were. The McLaren seems very planted, very stable, but a little bit like almost as if it's too stable in some of those corners. Like almost as if it's too stable and the driver has full commitment and control of the car. But the car, I don't even know how to describe it. It just felt a little bit like it's not a bad thing, but it's like the car might need a bit more tweaking to be more comfortable at high speeds and high in turns for that McLaren. And this was on the fastest lap that I was watching off Lando, you know. It was a little bit jumpy at high speeds, how that will change, how the season will progress. So I believe this was the first part of testing. Antonelli had the fastest lap. That is true. Yeah, Antonelli towards the end, he clocked in the fastest lap. Hamilton was 4 tenths down. Sonoda in P4, Albon in P3, Lawson in P2. So it's very encouraging. But the teams we expect to be at the top, they are at the top. But I look forward to hearing what you think, you know, especially about these flexi wings. You know, this was a really good shot of how the wings were behaving, you know, in corners, under braking, at high speeds. You can really see those wings. I don't even think the right word is to call it flexi wing because I don't think it's flexing. I just think it's doing what a wing is supposed to do. These things cannot be built by like a brick wall. They have to be built with flexibilities. So if the wings are moving under high speeds, low speeds, I think that's supposed to happen. I think that is normal. Now, I have no idea why there's a problem in F1 with these kind of wings. I think it's to avoid teams finding loopholes and ways, clever ways to cheat. But honestly, if everyone can do it, then is it cheating? But again, I think they want to control it really well because if they don't control it at all, perhaps some teams will use it in ways other teams can't figure out. But that's also the point of Formula 1. But hey, that was super exciting. So we got more. There we go, Flexi Wing once again. Like I said, I don't really like the name, but I get the point they're trying to make. But what do you guys think about the first day of testing? You know, we got the second day coming in tomorrow. So that's going to be really interesting to see, you know, what the teams are working on tomorrow in terms of testing these cars. I think they've accomplished quite a lot in just one day. So a couple more days of testing, I think we're going to see even more. It's going to be even more apparent of, you know, who has an advantage and who perhaps doesn't. But most teams are being conservative. But the McLaren looks the best. And I'm not trying to be overhyped. I genuinely think they look the best. The Mercedes also looks really, really good. While the Red Bull looks stable, but I guess it's a question of you know, will it have the speed? But it looks stable. It looks like, you know, if they have any issues, it's fixable. And you know how Red Bull are. You know, sometimes they do start out having issues, but they will figure out those issues. They will fix them, and then you will have problem. Apparently, Mercedes tested two wings today, particularly with Kimi. Kimi best time was set with the front wing from the top picture. So yeah, Mercedes were testing different sort of wings, but they look similar but slightly different. So teams are doing all forms of tests. Yeah, we uploaded a new video earlier today, 44 views, 44 likes. I thought that was really ironic, so I had to post. I wish if I could get that Lando lap. You know, that Lando lap was really, really incredible to watch. I'm telling you, that car looks good, looks planted, looks stable. And Lando looked confident in that car as well. And obviously, he was in the second session. Once again, there are the times from testing who looks fast and who doesn't in testing. Fascinating stuff. But I would say check out that lap from Lando. That was very impressive. Well, the lap just looks really good. It looks really promising for McLaren. So remember to follow us on Twitter, subscribe to see more, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the first day of testing. And I will see you in the next one. And let me know, who do you think is sandbagging the most? Is it Ferrari or is it Red Bull? Subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.